family, which is a good thing. So we have the godfather of Malaysian punk scene.
Just another guy.
No. He says that. Kita punya intro kan? Kena intro ada lagu-lagu. Kena.
Jin 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 jin. Jin 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 jin.
Anyway.
Turn it into a more kind of like, for me, a lot more substantial movement of youth doing their own thing. So back then,
I have questions, but later lah.
Yeah.
You do this.
so back then tak ada internet, of course. So what we did back then is to hantar surat. You post letters to everyone in Italy, Sweden, of course, England and US tu biasa lah kan. But even in Peru, Panama, everywhere. And then each letter yang you got, you will get. Let's say you write to a band, you order a band LP. The band will send you an LP. Sometimes the LP will come with all these flyers, small flyers like this big, photostated about their new releases, about new fans, and they also get it from other people that they write to. So when, like for me, if I have a few, then I put together the letter, just whack it, I think I send it to people. So that's how we spread the information of new bands, new releases, new fans.
Like clicking share.
Yes. And this is a collection of all these small flyers. So this is a collection of small flyers that was collected by God, ataupun nama dia asli, God Sadus. He did a fancy called Sadus. But before that, he and his friend put out a fanzine, which supposed to be the first Sabahat fanzine. I think it was what, 92. Okay, and he put all this together in 1993, 21st August 1993. And last week he gave this to me. He has 3 of these. Dia ada 3. Satu go to his friend Adil, another one goes to me. But I got one, which is great. So I'm going to show you now. Ready? Okay. So this is one of the flyer of my fanzine.
It is.
So these are all the flyers that you send via. So Mita Keburu is a fanzine from Johor, and this is like what are the bands that been interviewed, been featured, and this is like a compilation of all the bands done by people in Johor. You know. So then you got like, you know, this is the first demo by Useless and all this thing. How much it is? RM5. Okay. Kalau you overseas or alien, you buy 3 USD. Okay, so and then he's
The exchange.
yeah, yeah, and this is just the first and second page, and then there, and then there.
These are all flyers.
All flyers, all from T-shirt,
Amazing.
and then like people like Roxy. Roxy is one of the first record store in Singapore that sells the more extreme music, alternative music back then in the 80s. So a lot of the bands that started in the mid 80s Singapore, they all bought their stuff here, or whenever they release something, they put it at Roxy. We in KL, into Malaysia, we go down to Roxy to get stuff. So all this is very, very, very important, you know. So you see lah, all the fanzine come out. This is a show with Infection Maggot playing one of the first few shows. Infection Maggot played this application. He cut all the early extreme metal bands, and it goes on lah. Yeah. So and it's all done by kids. You know, young people who are doing something entirely different
This
from
is like
what is in
only
the mainstream.
Wesley typewriters.
Yes, of course. That time typewriters. Either you got the typewriter ketik-ketik like that with on the A4, or you have the
Transcript thing.
Yeah,
Nyet.
yeah. The nyet one is late 80s ordeal.
Oh.
Yeah, but this kalau early. So this is 93. So this is stuff before. I would say from about 89 to about 92, 93. All the stuff is out here. Relapse is a big label in the US. Who I mean, they got an European label actually, and got signed a lot of the bands. And Relapse was released here by VSP later on, and now it become one of the biggest metal label ever. So yeah, that's a Capital Dung's bio, which is taken from our first album that came out in 93.
Kau lahir bila teh?
So this one the Capital Dung thing with the address when I was living in Unsane in Brickfield back then. Like another flyer of the early metal band there, like Rator is very, very important. Lansway also just there. So yeah, it goes on, the gathering. So yeah. So and it goes on, man, and he got this many pages. And it's only the first
one
book.
of them that you designed?
Oh, stuff to do with Sonic Asylum Records or something like that, or one that I run, or like this Capital Dung early logo that I did it lah. I designed it lah.
Manually?
No, I mean we have a friend yang dia kerja drafting. So when we need something like computer based, then we ask him. So he's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is my work. This is Sonic Asylum Records, which is a label that I ran in 92 to 93. No, the whole of 92, which released Moda first album, The Pilgrim first album, Infection Maggot first album. All my project like that one. So this is the newsletter that I would send out, and I would tell them what's happening. This is 92. So what's happening, and then if they want a T-shirt, they can send in. So this is a T-shirt that we're selling. The Moda first album, amazing stuff. Doom metal. This is the second.
Ahmad is a big fan of doom metal.
So this is the second issue, the newsletter. So this is when the Pilgrim, Moda, Infection Maggot, early stuff. So yeah, so that's my fanzine.
This is gold.
Yeah, this is gold. This is total gold, man. And the thing is, we all have this. We all have all these flyers. If you are in the scene back then, but from my point of view, only God or Asli who decided to do this is also mine. To put all together, and then in this way, it kept very well.
Because I call this scrapbooking, but what do you call this?
This is scrapbooking, of course, but
There's no term like.
no, I mean, just call it scrapbooking. Since I was, this is scrapbook, but the content of the scrapbook is all the small flyers to each other all around the world, global, all around the world. Like this is very rare. Mutilation first demo came out. Mutilation is one of the first grindcore band in Malaysia. So yeah, it's a treasure. And for me, when you ask me about the artifact, man, this is like.
I did my diploma in 99, and I noticed there's a lot of people hanging out in
Yeah.
shops. I mean, they're always in like nooks and crannies of buildings, and I noticed they would have a lot of Cradle of Filth kind of photos there, like a lot of
What year? What around what era?
from 99 till 2004.
That's very late already. We are talking like this one. It's like early 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So by the time of late 90s, the scene has gone on for almost like 15 years. And in my case, we've been on since 1979. Since I was a kid. So by the time like people got to know about alternative music, it's already quite old for a lot of us. Because we've been listening to a long time. Like personally, when like people going crazy over rock kappa, search wings, we were already like listening to really hardcore punk. Like we were listening to Bad Brains, we were listening to the Stupids, we were listening to all the really hard stuff. So when we heard search and all that, this is so lame. Because for us, it's yes, right, yeah. But of course, because we already like listening to this really weird stuff from butthole surfers to, crazy thing that suddenly you got this rock. Yeah, it's fine, it's great. Listen, but we are totally entranced already at that time. We were listening to really music that were challenging viewpoints or entrenched ideas. Bands like pushing boundaries early on, like crazy stuff like Ratus from Scandinavia, Peggio Punk from Italy, from Torino, all these bands from Brazil are really into the scene. We should do something to help. So there are people who do this, like gigs. Of course, not that many people doing shows, but I did when they lost Galactica and Paradise. So Paradise is in Putrajaya. They hosted a lot of early shows, which I went to and I did the flyers for them. I mean, whoever organized the show would come, Joe, do the flyers. Cut up on the fancy stuff. And then there's Galactica, and then you got Semua House, where I recorded Blackfire. Semua House roller skate. I mean, there's a roller skating ring. They got a stage.
Semua House is textile?
No, I mean upstairs.
Okay.
They have this hall where they do.
You go everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you are looking for venues. It's not nowadays like you have jamming studios run by the singers. No, the what's happening now where you have like terminals or something like that. That's only happened late 90s. I think early 2000s kids started to.
You guys can sit here, huh?
Hey, hi. So so I'm saying, if you're part of the scene, then you should contribute. If you cannot play in bands or write songs, you do fanzine. If you cannot do fanzine, then maybe you can interview other bands, type it up and give it to the guys. Or you can do artwork, you can do writing, you can do not so much video at that time because nobody can afford it. I'm talking about late 80s and 90s. Okay, so you have to put in that frame of time. Anything else?
I want to ask you, because obviously you've been to all the states in Malaysia. You've observed culture or non-culture here. Anything you see as Jukid when you go to terminals, when you go to Lighthouse, what do you see happening and what do you think should happen, or what's your opinion on the KK scene now?
The KK scene?
Is that development?
Yeah, the KK scene is amazing. I mean, I can say safely maybe from about early 2000. Early 2010s. 2010, 2011, 12, 13, all that. I mean, there is this new young kids who started their own thing. I mean, they are before, but more in kind of the metal scene. Not punk rock way. It was late 2000, I think. That kind of have more kind of like sizable crowd that doing music. And that's, like, that's culminated with Terminus and KK Live, whatever. I mean, before that, all these bands. And really, really good bands. Like Frustrasi, but then kind of like, Bari was singing. singing about stateless kids and all this thing. And musically it's great also. And then recently you got Orang Planet, which is amazing. I mean, bands like Jethro's or Orang Planet, if they are in Kuala Lumpur, they will like, they would whack the other guys. They're really, really good. Yes, they would be on par with a lot of songs. But because they are in KK, that this is about geolocation that's a bit kind of like total in that sense. I mean, they're really good bands. There's so many good bands. You don't talk about KK, and the KK, in terms of the underground scene, it started really early. I mean, like I was showing you that this collection, that was from 1992, 93. So the metal scene was starting here like really early. Like in Sadakan, you got people like Perpetual, this band Perpetual, still playing. That was early, from the early 90s. And over here now, recently you got Pogo Wolf, all these like body bags, I can't remember all the band's name. Really, really good. Like I said before, if they are in KL or somewhere in that western region, they would be really well known.
Why?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
are well
I
known.
want-
They are well known in terms of the underground, really underground DIY punk scene. But for me, that's a tragedy because there is a tendency in the DIY punk scene to kind of like turning that scene into a ghetto. The ideas they have, the music is kind of not being put out forth to the general public. That's a shame. So they are known among us who are into the DIY punk scene or the more DIY kind of musical movement. But out there, I mean, I play on my radio show or whatever sometimes. It's a shame. Yeah. So, but things like Terminus is very important. Terminus for me is almost like the early version of Rumah Api. Because it's so grassroots level, it's so democratizing, it's so open to anyone, it just so doesn't care what people think. It just, kids coming together doing their own thing with their own rules. So that for me has always been important. Because that's how one of the biggest take that I took from punk was that empowerment thing, that you can actually be yourself, do whatever you want in your own way, in your own, using your own rules, your own, time, whatever. You don't need to be under anyone's thumb. So that's for me one of the main gist of punk rock that really changed my life since I was 15, 14. Kind of like, it's like mind blowing. You got people from the early London scene talking about books, from Bukowski to Camus to, like the Cure early days, they were writing from the stories written by Camus. You got people talking about Atomy, all this, the Dadaist movement. So it's big. It's not just. This is why when I talk about that I don't like surface because this is surface, mohawk, whatever. This is so many. We had Kapita Dang had a song called Pang Pang Speak Up. It means that you can order, you can fried pang on. What is pang? Roasted pang, a plate of you can buy. The songs talk about how you can buy all these things to look on the surface.
It's like one of the photos you shared in Facebook, the punk starter kit. They have this type of boots, that type of jacket, this type of pomade for the hair.
Yeah,
You're one of them.
Of course, when you're part of the scene, you have to be critical about it. And one of the main things that I'm so sad about is how it become classified. It become a tradition. You have to look this way, you have to look that way. Whereas the main thing, which is the substance of it, the ideas of it, is kind of been ignored. And for me, it's supposed to move on to new things. You know, like try to break more barriers instead of just be stuck. We have to play crass. Okay, crass. You play music that was I been listening since what 84, and then it's the same thing. You know what I mean? That you know, there is this the how to say, your own creativity is stuck in aping your heroes. Whereas it's a shame because you're talented. You can find other ways to express it without relying on getting all these things that happened before. And so that's the part of the punk rock scene that I kind of like feel sad. I'm very sad. But I love the fact that kids are doing their own thing. It doesn't matter what other people say, they're doing their own thing, they're writing their own song. You know, back in the day when we put out our album, people were shocked. I told you before. How can you write your own song? Why do you get like M. Nasir to write your song? You know, that is thing. When you get like Tapa to do your cover, and I was like, what? That's totally beyond what we think we should do. It's what we're doing. So that's what I'm saying. What else?
I want to segue skip to the communities in Sabah because I feel there's a lot of signals. Okay. There's a lot of communities, a lot of circles in KK Sabah, and a lot of them, a lot of new faces are surface. Just understand where they want to understand. So if we see a lot of kids going into this punk culture, knowing that I want to listen to this kind of music, I don't know, wear this type of clothes, but I don't want to be involved with these type of people. I don't want to because he's gay. I don't want to.
Oh, in that sense.
Yeah, and he's from this type of religion.
I think that's.
I feel like we need to hear something to joke here. Like, budak, kau boleh fikir panjang sikit. Because I'm frustrated with people yang, ini bukan punk. But
Yeah, but again, I mean, one of the most difficult questions people ask you, what is punk rock? What is punk? Okay, it's so different. Different people have different take on it, and for me, it's fine because that's how you look at it. But everybody have their own idea about it, and for me, it's more nebulous. It's an idea that swirls around. It's not. It cannot be set in a box. It cannot be set in stone. It moves. For me, that's it always finding new areas, always challenging what's happening. Always in terms of politics or in terms of morality or whatever. It's always trying to find creative expression that goes beyond what is acceptable. So in the punks, if you go back to the early days of punks, even before punks, there's so many subcultures. Right? You got the S&M subculture, like beating up each other by having sex. BDSM, you got that subculture too. You know? And when you go back to the early days in the London scene, one of the first imagery that was used to shock people, because in the early days, punk was about shocking people from their comfort zone. Like Susie or from Susie and the Banshees, who wear swastika. She's from a Jew family. Okay? So you know where she's coming from. She's trying to piss off the parents who's trying to stifle. So this is the way to shock people from this stupor, to start thinking. And that was the case at that time. Of course, later on they rejected it because it involved a larger picture of how people been violated and killed. But imagery was so important. So imagery such as kind of gay culture imagery was used. If you have like the T-shirt where there's two cowboys, that was German. Come from a German comic. Two cowboys with their hats on, but their dick is hanging out, like meeting each other like in the middle of this. So that's one of the part that Vivian Westwood and Malcolm McLaren was using to kind of like shock people at the same time sad they were angry. I mean, so when you talk about the people that is on the fringes of society, that was where the ideas was taken in and distilled by the early punks. They are one of the major things that people forgot is like, first of all, musically, is about anyone can do it. You know one chord, go ahead, form a band, two chords, doesn't matter, you know. You don't need to solo, you don't know how to solo. You have test department, a band called test department, you just bang on and that's it. You know, you cannot do your own song. Some bands even sign up their own nama, so they don't even own their band name. I think that's how you got real expedition is expedition. You know? Yeah. So
the real expedition is not the real expedition.
the real, from my point of view, the real expedition was when expedition trying to reclaim, but they can't because expedition was signed up in the level. So they have to add in the real because they lost it. Understand? So the contractual obligations that was put upon them was crazy. My main point is that a lot of throughout all these decades, we have so many really, really talented people who were not nurtured, who were not given the real contract for them to move on. Like you play rock, but you're a really good songwriter, whatever. You know, when rock died, you died because you cannot go further than the trend. Whereas there's a lot of people who can go further. Understand? Like blues gang playing non-blues music when you know they love blues. Why do you allow blues gang to become a blues band? Commercial consideration. So like even a really great hard rock band like Sweet Charity, they have to be covered. They did Camellia from
Hard rock.
APJ. Sweet Charity is hard rock.
I always listen to their music and I don't feel like they're hard rock.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, understand that. So
Because they,
a lot of, oi, man. Sikit lama tak jumpa ni.
Kopi dia.
Okay, so
what kopi?
Kopi kau.
so that's yeah. I think I've seen enough. I kind of lost track.
So they baru start video. No, Ilanu saying the job in the start.
Okay.
What's the story behind?
There were, when I got to know about the scene happening that is starting out in KL, I was like really like obsessively thinking that we should have a scene, but there's none. We have punks going on. We would meet at the bus station in Palakangana where we exchange cassette, exchange fanzines in our jacket, whatever, books, whatever. But there is no musical sort of scene, you know. And yeah, I was telling you about Luke Haas. Luke Haas is a friend of mine for a long time. Luke Haas was right. I mean, I told you before how we were writing people overseas, and Luke Haas wrote a scene report about the more the issue European punk scenes, Hungary, Holland, in the American fanzine, which is Massimo. And we read Massimo. We got Massimo mainly from my best friends who went off to study in Australia. We know I read about them in the Music Express, but not so much detail. So Massimo is the punk news, and they sent it over. And then after we got a few copies, US. So anyway, I think it was Nasri, a friend of mine, Nasri Chi, not living in my junior in school, they start writing to the class, and then we got continuation. In 1980, I would believe 87, late 87 or maybe early 88, he was on his round because he would go around to all these punk scenes that very remote. He put out like before they put out some compilation or some issue of bands from Eastern Europe. He started coming over this region. He went to Thailand and he came to Malaysia to meet us, Najri and me. But at the time we were based in Terengganu. So he arrived in KL. He was going to take a bus back to Singapore. But before that, he was walking around. He went to Kota Makau. There was a Japanese studio called Wilaya. He went past the door, and there was this schedule of the bands that's going to rehearse or going to jam at a certain time. And he called me up. He said, "Joe, what is this? I saw these three bands here. One is called Punisher, one is called Nemesis, and the third one I can't remember now." And I was like, when I read that, and when I heard that, I said, "Oh God, there's a scene happening." I know the names. Rock band will not use those names. These are names. I know when people say a band that says Nemesis, these guys may be the same people like me who were reading 2018 comics from England, you know, because there's a character named Nemesis. And of course, Punisher. This is another comic, you know what I mean? I thought, wow. So, me and my friends, we always go to Kuala Lumpur to dub cassette. Yeah, that's how we get started at the record store. So I asked Shahlan, who's my junior in school, maybe 6 years removed from something else. He said he's going to KL. I said, "Hey, if you go to KL, can you go to Central Market and try to find these guys?" He said, "Okay." And then he came back and said, "Yeah, I met those guys. They are band, they got this and that." And I got the address. I interviewed them, Punisher, via email. Via letter lah. I sent a letter and they sent me back. So I got this interview. That came out in Eddie's Fanzine second issue. And at that point I realized
What year was this?
that was, I would say, 88.
Okay.
Then I would
I
think,
was going berserk with the timeline.
then I was like, oh my God, there's a scene. You know? And at that time, I took a year. I mean, I was supposed to go work with SO. and I thought, no, I don't want to do. Personally, I've seen. I projected myself in the future.
I don't want to look like this.
Yeah, I would be like maybe successful, got big house, maybe got a car, but will I be happy? I was not feeling it. And I told my mom cried. I said, no, I want to go to Canada. And of course, I don't want to go without having something to rely on for cari makan lah.
Was it there still around?
Yes. My dad is fine. I mean, he's good. Yeah. He's that sort of person. My dad is another story. But since I was very, very young, I always buy a star newspaper. Since I was from 15, 14. I'm weird that way. I always buy English newspapers. And I always cut out a lot of poetry from. There's a page on poetry that's done by can't remember the names now from people in Penang, and I would cut it up, put it on my wall. And one day, I opened up the Star, and there is this advertisement. The Star just reopened because it was closed down by Mahathir in 1957 because of Operation Lala. Remember? So they just reopening with new shareholders. And
87.
yeah. So they're looking for new writers, and what he wrote there, if I remember correctly, says, "Are you bold? Are you adventurous?
Are you willing to work odd hours?
That's a big ad.
Yeah, it is. Come and join us. And I took a ticket, bus ticket, went down to KL. And I went to the interview, and they asked me, okay, what is your qualification? I didn't bring whatever it is, qualification of my college, whatever. I didn't bring. I brought 3 issues of my family. Put it back. This is what I did. Wow, you did it yourself? Yeah. Hey guys, come, look at these guys. And then they all, wow. So for the stated, my writing, I think the first issue was handwritten, the second one was typewritten. And they're like, okay, come, tomorrow come work. So I got my job. And
Thanks to fancy.
yeah, and I kind of like really thankful for that because they could see how passionate you are about this, and that's for me is the most important. You don't need to know even to write proper at that time because they're going to train you. Just whether you have to, you know, they call it the talent to do it, or your passion to do this thing. That's how I got my job. And you know, so I work in the morning, sampai petang, and then I would go to Central Market, hang out with guys, go see shows and things like this. And I wrote the first report about the thrash metal scene, or the underground music scene, in the Star. It came out in 88. No, 87.
Underground scene in the start.
In the Star. In the Star. I found it recently. I mean, I want to put it up, but it got my real name there, you know, which I don't want people to know much. I might put it up and delete my name. But anyway, yeah, that's the first report. And then the thrash metal big concert done by Ali Bakar happened in 88. And I could not remember a thing about it. But recently somebody posted on Facebook, and there's a report by me on the show. But yeah, so I did the report on that also. And of course throughout the time I was doing my fancy, giving back overseas.
So now you're busy.
Huh?
So now you're busy with the start.
Yeah, but the Star was more like my excuse to join the scene and do stuff for the scene. Because one of the ideas of the scene for me and for a lot of us back in the day is like, if you are incapable of playing guitar for a band, then you should maybe do a fancy. If you can't, then maybe you can do artwork for bands and stuff. If you cannot do that, maybe you want to do shows. So almost like this unwritten kind of thing that you should contribute to the scene. Because it's very small. Back then when I'm telling you about the scene, so-called scene, maybe about 20 people, Central Market. Like 2-3 bands, you know? But these are the ones, the gestation, the thing you see now. Like, you know, like every week we have gigs. Back then it was so hard, it was crazy. We would go and knock on Dandu places. Bang, can we do a show here? When? Give the date. Okay, we start the night at 8, so you take before that lah. Okay. And we take 70%. Tak apa.
What?
Yeah, yes, we just
That's
do that.
bad.
Yeah, doesn't matter. We just do shows. So, because important to for me at the time, for the scene to have live shows. I did one of my first few shows was at the fun fair. I go and see the fun fair. I say fun fair happening, somewhere in PJ. I went to the boss. Hey boss, can do show here? Can? Yes. The first show I had, the first show that I did in 9, I think, it was a band called Voices, which is a metal band consisting of people from Kelang and all this. People hanging outside Market. And then a band called Pichagari, which is from guys from Alustar and Penang. And when the show happened, masa mula tu, I mean, when it was first starting kan, all these makcik come with the tikar, with the bantal, to bring all the kids. After 2 songs, they all left.
The one in the front fair.
That one or the first one at the Sunway that I did.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was a great show. I recorded it. It's amazing stuff. And then I did more, like everywhere. The Ampang. The Ampang one was funny because it's across the road from the police station. All this thing. What used to be a padang near the mall, there was no building there yet. It was a funny fair, so we did all that. What I'm saying, coming back again,
The police. We're kinda safe. Kinda. Rolling ka?
Yeah,
Rolling.
rolling.
okay, what is it again?
You were talking about Marco Ferrisi's observations of how punk, what do people take from the punk scene here in Europe? Like, because I followed some of the skinhead scene here before I filmed them, and actually Amir Muhammad was one who said he would like film them lah, and I think that they thought it was very funny how their idea of the skinheads over there is kind of racist, I suppose. Then they're like, oh, why is it that people like Sandakan Maluran are these brown people or these like Asian people are following it? So I guess yeah, how do Southeast Asians take punk differently?
In the early days, when the scene, when the age of the scene is still very young, a lot of the ideas from overseas, especially the Western world, were taken in without the context, without the context of Malaysia or even if in Indonesia or even in Philippines. So like let's say you got into the anarchist ideas, and then like what happened, like a bunch of my friends, they because in Europe you can squat houses or buildings that have been empty for a few months, that you can take over. There's a law that allows you to do that, and they will, go to the city council and get the electricity in, and you can stay there. Which for me was where a lot of the creativity happened. So much art, film, music, even from the 60s, even after the war, in England, especially in Berlin and all these places. So the kids in Malaysia, KL, decided to take that, and they took over a flat, a house in a flat, and of course that house was empty because the owner went somewhere, and there's no such laws in terms that govern empty buildings that can be taken over in Malaysia. So after I think it was 2 months, the police came and they had to repaint the place. They have to do a lot of these things. That is an experiment that doesn't work because it's not in accordance to what we have over here. Our landing, the zone laws, the housing rules are very, very different. Not like over there, because over there there's a lot of remnants of socialist ideas that come. And of course Malaysia do have a lot still of those, like our health, our hospitals and things like this. There's still a lot of the remnants of the ideas, which is funny because a lot of people hate socialism, but they want like free stuff. Government funded. Which is like totally like what? You do not understand how it works. In terms of that, in terms of skinhead, right? One of the major influence for skinhead in Malaysia was that film with Russell Crowe in it, called Romper Stomper. So Romper Stomper is a story about a bunch of racist right-wing skinhead in Footscray in south of Melbourne, and that become like almost like a model for the early skinheads over here. So they wanted to emulate everything. So to the point of beating up Banglas, or they call it Pakis, like the term that used in England, where you go and beat up Pakis, Pakistanis, so Bangladeshi kill Pakistanis lah. So they just trying to fit into all these, to tick all the boxes of being a skinhead, without really knowing about it. I'll tell you a story how there was a band called Sex and Violence. I think it was 90, I would say 94, 95. Sex and Violence is a very, very good band with 2 punks and 2 skinheads, 2 early skinheads. They were hanging out at Pudu Raya. One of them is called An. An's family runs a t-shirt and kind of clothing kind of shop in Pudu Raya, the bus station, the main bus station. And then the 2 skinhead was Megat and Eddie, who now play SIPSIP. So Sex and Violence sent a demo to me, and I love it. But then I realized that lyrically, this is very suspect. There's a song called Bangla Song, all these things like that, really trying to fit into that Romper Stomper kind of mold. And so I did a review, and I said this is a very good band. Musically, they're awesome. But I'm not gonna put the address here because the lyrics are racist. And so I just said it's a good band, but you know, I don't agree with the racist kind of ideas that they put out in the songs. And when my band Kabel Tedang played a big show, I believe it was called Psycho or Go-Go or something like this, at the S&M Kota Raya, Megat and Eddie come see me and telling me, you cannot say that to us. Come on, I mean, I talked to them. I said, guys, if you want to be, a skinhead, that's true skinhead, then you should meet up with these guys from Singapore. There was a band at that time that started earlier on called the Maniacs. The Maniacs, their girlfriends were playing with us. The girlfriend played in a band called Psychosonic, one of the first kind of Singaporean punk alternative kind of all-girl band that played with us. And Megat and Eddie went to meet those guys. And when they came back, okay, they understood it. They went for the more traditional skin kind of outlook, which means that it's non-political. Because skinhead cannot happen without the blacks in England, because the whole culture was brought in from Jamaica. From there, through ska music, to blue beat, you know, and the mods at that time hang out with them and start become this what's called a hard skin, where you shave off your hair. That because a lot of the black kids are coming from the West Indies were looking that way and wearing that as a certain fashion. So that's how skinhead started in England. So that is nowadays known as the traditional skinhead, trad skins, right? So SCAB started to have more kind of like anti-racist kind of ideas and things like this. But of course, they always say that they're not political and all that. Yes. So even they put out an EP called anti-racist and all that. You know, I mean, it's great. You know, but on the street in KL that time in the late 90s, there were like punks, street punks, who would be wearing swastikas and things like this. And the skinhead, some of them even call them sharp, which meaning SHARP, which a movement of skinhead from New York, which the meaning skinhead against racial prejudice, SHARP. So some of the skinhead in KL started to adopt that, and then they have running battles on the street against the street punks with the swastika and all this thing. So that happened for years actually. Like I wrote a song for Pilgrim's second album called Black Bottom Nazis or something like this. I can't remember. It's about how all these kids who are Malays who have black bottoms trying to be this white supremacists, you know, which is like, and we make fun of them most of the time. So that's. But like I said, a lot of the time, the early days, there was not much information anyway. And I remember back in the day, people asked me to kind of like sit on a pedestal and tell people what to do, which I'm not. That's not me. I don't really want to be that guy who tell people you cannot do this, you cannot do that. You know, I would think if people really want to understand it, they can look for it. I mean, you know, find what it's all about. You don't need to. I can tell you where to go and things like that. I'm not going to sit on the pedestal and say, oh yeah, you have to follow me. No, that's not me. And a lot of people told me that later on that the scene cannot happen that way because I didn't come out and tell people what to do, which is for me it's like almost like a catch-22 thing, you know. But I do believe if you source it yourself, then it will affect you in a deeper way, and you understand more instead of people telling you, you know. So yeah, but nowadays, by the early 2000s, the skinheads are not so much a concern in terms of being racist or whatever. There's a few, very very few. I mean, this is what I have my conversation with Marco. I don't know, you know Marco Farisi. He wrote about the book. He was always talking about skinhead, whatever. And I told him, come on, man. I mean, it's very easy to kind of write about this thing because you know, that's how people go and click. You know, it's a clickbait. You know, when there's only about 10 people who are being racist, and when you got like thousands of people who are not racist, and you talk about them, you are giving them the airtime. You give them, and then you know, I mean, it's nothing bigger, man. I mean, it's just there, you know. What we did, well, we don't call them for our shows. We kind of ostracize them from the scene. They do their own thing, you know. Even when they do their own thing, we will also. I mean, I remember back, I think 2000, we went to a gig that they're having. A day before we went before their show, and we posted up anti-racist, anti-Nazi kind of flyers on, like pasted on the stage. So when they played the next day, they were like having all this thing. So, and I remember I hacked their email, I hacked the website, you know, to know what they're doing next, and I would take over their website and put all this like anti-racist kind of pictures. I did a bit, and you know why? Because their password is so easy. You can guess, and you do a few guess, you got it. It's like Sid Vicious. You're in. You know?
That's too good.
Or like, fuck off. Okay.
I thought these people are supposed to be creative.
Yeah, but they were kids at that time. They were kids at that time, I have to say. I mean, recently I went to Taipei.
Joe Kid.
I mean, if you want to go about that, then there's another story how they hated me. They wrote songs about me and they got slogans again. But yeah, but you know, when I was in Taipei recently to meet my old friend Abbas, who was back in 1979, he was the first guy who I got in touch with as punk rockers, because there's nobody around me and nobody around him, and we got to know each other. We start trading stuff. So I went to see him, interviewed him for like 2 days. It was great. But the Taiping scene was kind of famous with the adjacent Nazi scene in Penang called Northern Riot. So, and during those interviews, and then when I went ahead to Ipoh, I got really interested to kind of like know more about what happened to them mainly, you know what I mean? Because there are some people who are now playing crash band, so peace punk, anarchists, who are actually coming from that scene. I mean, in the early days. Even Min, you know, Arwah Min, Ronzai Min, who died, he was playing in a band called Gangbusters. He was one of the more important figures in Penang scene. He was actually in the early days was a part of that. So it's very interesting how people started to get into this look and kind of like ideas that, you know, really kind of silly, but move on to become, you know, like really substantial. You know? Like Min went on to do a lot of good stuff. You know, so many other people. So there are always these entry points, you know, kind of a bit dodgy, but then later on they grew up. You know, people grew up. You know? Like the skinheads who hated me, my band, who tried to beat me up in Johor or even Piccadilly, you know, back in the day, because we always been vocal about it. They sent me emails in the early 2000s saying, "Sorry, man, we were so young at that time. We were stupid. You know, we were, you know, sorry about that and all this thing." I mean, people grow up.
Kosong kosong.
Yeah, I mean, I always, and people, I always take things like, I would like to take things in a more kind of like, how to say, the Malay would say like, bersangka baik. You know, like, when you meet people, you always put a good thought to them. Okay, this is probably a good thing, you know what I mean? Of course, you also be cautious, but at the same time, you allow people to, you know, learn and you know, even you also learning from them also at the same time, you see. So yeah, so now what I'm coming back in the early 2000s, what happened was there was some sort of a more kind of like virulent, more kind of like in a way substantial racist, chauvinist Malay thing among these kids, and they were called Darah dan Marwah, which means it's taken straight from the right wing movement in Europe, which is Blood and Honor. Blood and Honor is very well known to be right wing racist white people, which been adopted in Kuala Lumpur as Darah dan Marwah, which is a direct translation. You know, and they did shows at one cafe. I think I'm talking about probably about 2007 to 8, 9, somewhere around there. And I would say there's only what 1 or 2 skinhead bands.
Oh, yelah, betul lah.
Is that right? Hello. You okay? Should I put it higher?
Can you talk a little bit about blasting concept, especially about the no ads?
I don't know. You know blasting concept? Oh, you know blasting concept?
That's how I know Joe, blasting concept.
Okay. In 1994, which is like what, almost 29 years ago, I was in the studio recording the Pilgrim second album under my own label. My label was called AGE, Alternative Garage Entertainment, which I set up in 1992 to do shows, to do gigs and stuff. And so the first product in terms of recording release is the Pilgrims Away from the Numbers, second album. And while I was in the studio, this guy who I know and Ilan knows, his name is Kian Wong, who's now living in Australia. Ken Wong with Prem and what's his name? Steven, who started Mesakini.
Oh.
There's Ken Wong and there's Jeffrey Tan. All these people who just got back from Australia were roped in to do a new newspaper called The Sun. The Sun, the license for The Sun was actually a newspaper about aliens and strange haunted thing. I can't remember them. It's a tabloid.
Tabloid, yeah.
A tabloid that write about, you know, all this like really strange UFO or whatever, you know. So Vincent Tan took over that newspaper and changed the name to The Sun, and decided to start a newspaper that was run by many young talent that just got back from Australia, from studying there. This including Prem and all these guys. And one of them, Kian Wong, when looking for me in KL, but he cannot find me until he came to the studio. He heard that I'm recording The Pilgrim, and then he said, Joe, we want you to write for us for The Sun. And I said, okay, I'll go for the meeting. I think the next few days after the recording, something like that, I went to see them, and they said, would you like to join us? You know, all these young people like doing all these things. It's going to be fresh, going to be great. And I said, yeah, great, but I only want to do one thing. And I said, what? I can do the reviews and things. I love doing musical reviews, releases, but I would like to have a column on the underground music scene. And they said, okay, that's a good idea. So I started with like, in a page, like I got maybe like to like kind of on the sides or something very small, but I was writing about when's the next gig, a bit of news about the scene. Somebody just split, the band is split, somebody got new guitarist in, whatever. And then at one point, I think almost about 6 months later or something, they have their own new building, which is at Jalan near to Tutu in PJ. And they started to have a pull out where somewhere near the weekend, somewhere in Wednesday, they have a pull out, especially on hi-fi. It's called Perfect Pitch.
Okay.
And I said to them, can I have a page there? And they said, yeah. And I want my page, a whole page, without advertisement. I don't want advertisement. Because this is about independent, about an independent scene, about the underground scene. We don't want any advert there. And they said, yes. So I ran that for 4 years, from 94 up to 98. So that's Blasting Concept. And Blasting Concept was really, I think, was really popular. When I talk to kids from everywhere now, they missed it, because that's where they can see who are the new bands coming out, what the new demo that come out, where the next gig is, and all these things. It come out every week. On the
No
dot.
adverts.
There's time that I went to places and I send in my stories, but and then my band's playing somewhere, let's say Ipoh, and I go there, I want to look for it, right? Just to see how it will look like. And I would get it like strewn around some Medan kit or something, and open it up, that page missing. So those pages always missing.
Stolen.
Yeah. So
Huh.
people were like keeping it and all this thing. Yeah. And I have with me, I collected for the 4 years, which I plan to put together as a book. You imagine 4 years every week, so that's a lot.
Full page. No
Full page,
ads.
no ads. Only one time they got an ad by Clockwork Records by Tang, because I was not at the office. I went back to Terengganu for. I sent in my story, and then somehow Tang managed to put his advert there once in that 4 years. That rule was broken once. Yeah. But even then, I got a lot of criticism from the more DIY punk scene, who says that I am opening up the scene to major public things. Test.
Oh, Joe's a recording.
I am recording now.
This is your alibi.
If anything wrong,
I didn't say
this
that.
guy have edited mine. This is the true one. Okay, so before we go,
Yes. Lowling. Rice cooker.
Oh.
Archives.
okay, the rice cooker archive started as a blog actually. Actually, it
Oh.
was a rice cooker, the blog, ricecooker.kerbau.com. Kerbau.com is a domain name that me and Ilan managed to get very early on. We didn't do anything much with it, but I started to do Dung People, which is actually a newsletter in, if you remember, Yahoo Groups.
Wow.
You don't know Yahoo Group?
No.
Okay, back then in the late 90s, you have IRC. Yeah. Okay. So a
Okay.
lot of kids are on IRC, and then you also have like Yahoo Group started to have this kind of forum. So you started a group and then you invite people to come in and we talk.
Okay.
So and it's a mailing list. So one of the mailing lists was called the one that started by Irman, and he asked me and Yimpin. Yimpin is in a way kind of the godfather of the experimental music to come in, and then it was called Malaysian Underground at Yahoo Group, and I also run Dung People at Yahoo Group, and also a page for Dung People at kerbau.com. And Dung People is mainly about the news about the band mostly,
Okay.
but also other gigs and stuff. But then I decided to do rice cooker, fanzine. It's like but online. Ricecooker.com. Rice Cooker is mainly, if you go now, you can still go back to like 1999. It's still there. Now it's called ricecooker.com. Anyway, ricecookershop.com, because after that, okay, the blog would feature a calendar once the next show coming up,
Okay.
like anywhere throughout the region. I would collect flyers. People send me flyers where I put it up, the time, the day. Sometimes put the map where the venue is, and there are reviews, there are interviews, and scene reports, and things like this. And when Central Market, the main building Central Market, in 2005 or 2006, I think, they were closed down for renovation. And in a way, the scene, there's no place to hang out. Like everybody usually congregate there. Metalhead or indie kids, whatever, will congregate there since the scene started. Like, even before that, the Anak Alam group is hanging out there. So Central Market has always been a cultural meeting point for a lot of young people who are doing art or music or poetry, whatever. Since back, I think go back to like the early 80s, I would say. But in terms of the underground music scene, that's where we, in 87 onward. 2006, about 10 years after that. 10 years? Yeah. The place closed down. It was taken by Saudagar Kain. His name is Bernard Bong. He took over the place. And he wanted to turn it into like a more touristy kind of area and things. And a friend of ours, a friend of Ilan actually, Ilan and Nani Kaha, set up Lab PNA before. That's what they do. They did rave parties in the late 90s and all this. They are really legendary in that sense.
Pudu.
Not just, even before Pudu, there's rooftop, there's like Capitan's Club. Anyway, Nani told me, Joe, what we're going to have, we're thinking of having a kind of like a hub at the annex, which is at the back of Central Market. So, would you like to join us, do something? And I was thinking at that time that we don't have an outlet for non-mainstream releases, writing, whatever. So I thought, why don't I change Rice Cooker, the blog, into a Rice Cooker shop, where the main thing would be releases from the region in terms of the underground scene or the Hawaii punk scene, whatever that's coming from the region, and I would be selling it there, fanzine. I even got a prototype machine so that people can come and do the fanzine.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best times that we had, because the annex was really amazing. I think they have four floors. Yeah. So immediately above the ground floor, there is Rice Cooker shop facing Bao Bao Cafe, which is run by Footnote Bombs and Hisham the Rais. And in between, we have this veranda. And the veranda with all these tables and everything. Everybody that comes through town comes in the market. I would say, what did you do?
Oh, the big veranda.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you do? And they would say, I was doing this research. Would you like to do a talk tonight? I say, okay. And then immediately we just call Punk, who was handling the whole thing. I said, Punk, do you have like a projector that this guy can show what he's doing? So, and we do a talk immediately that night, you know. And upstairs we have the spaces for gigs, exhibition, and on our level alone, there's Babao Cafe, Rice Cooker. Just beside us, there was a bunch of people who were doing tagging, a lot of spray painting walls, and I can't remember
Dave.
Huh?
Dave. His name was Dave.
Dave.
The graffiti.
Yeah. I can't remember the names.
Dave.
And then right at the end there,
I've seen this work before.
right at the end there, you got the early Findas, which is the experimental part of the scene. You know what I mean? So for 3 years, I think we had so much fun. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy time. There was a lot of stuff happening, and really, really good stuff.
That's what we can make Laman City.
Yeah, so coming back to the Rice Cooker Archive, I was given the form for API, Asian Public Intellectuals, which was financed by
Japan Foundation,
Nippon Foundation, which has been financing. I mean, every year they give out money for people to do research. And people like, I think Nadia Bamadash, even Den Said, they went and got it and do the research. You know? And they sent me earlier on. I got it in my postbox when we were still living in Bukit Silong. But I ignored it until I think 2011, 2012, where somebody said, Joe, I think this is the last leg of their financing. I don't think they have that much money now. If you get it, you should get it. You know, if you get the form, you should try to get it. And because I've been ignoring for years, right? I thought, okay, because I really wanted to do research on the history of punk and subcultures, youth subcultures in Southeast Asia. So I wrote my proposal of what I was going to do, and I got Jeffrey Tan, which was my editor for Blasting Concept, that column in the Sun. At that time, he was teaching at Aga Khan University in London. So he sent me like recommendation letter so that I can put inside the letter. And I got another one from, I can't remember now. There's another guy. But anyway, I sent it. There were, at that time, I heard there were about 19 or more people asking for to become to be a fellow for the fellowship. And I got it. I got it along with Shika and Zohabri, who was running Frinjan. Frinjan Inshallah. And a few more other people. And I've never been to university. I mean, I've been to college, but not university. And we went for the interview during the selection period, and I brought all the fanzine and flyers and the stuff I've been collecting. And the professors, there were about, I would say, 7 or 8 professors that on this big table that I have to present to them what I'm doing. And they said, "Oh, this is great," you know. So I got it. So I got the funding to do my research, and I went to Indonesia 4 months, Philippines 4 months, and I went to Tokyo and Japan for 4 months. For a whole year I was traveling. Japan was because I want to see the contrast between the scene in the punk scene in Japan, in contrast with what's happening in Southeast Asia. And also because I want to see the bands there. I love the Japanese scene is really something else. That's another time to talk about. But I think the Japanese scene is really, I mean, most of the time they're way better than what's happening in England or whatever. But when I was traveling, interviewing a lot of the old punks, old metalheads, I asked them about, do you still have that? Do you still have this? Do you still have that cassette, that demo tape? Do you still have that fanzine? Do you still have that picture or that video? They said, no, Joe. A lot of them, they lost it because of main thing in Manila was like flooding and fire. And the same in Jakarta. And that made me realize that we need to have an archive in terms of concerning the subcultures around the region, especially punk rock, metal, whatever, that is non-mainstream subculture that has been brewing since the 80s, that is now a lot of the so-called artifact is missing. And I've been collecting since the late 70s anyway, so I got a sizable collection, and I would like to share it with people. And that's the point when I came back, and I thought, that's the end of Rice Cooker Shop and the beginning of Rice Cooker Archive. And that's where I started to more actively collecting, digitizing, you know, like asking people to give me their collection if they don't want it anymore. So, you know, like just what I showed you just now. You know, I got recently I got this collection of very old flyers from Asri or God, which was based in Kota Belud, guys. All these things. And these are the things I just got recent. I mean, last few days. I got, and thank you for all these guys for helping out the archive. Like, I got this fanzine from No.
Oh,
No gave me this fanzine, his fanzine, and all the stuff that come out, you know, in Sabah itself, in Tiningau, and you know, amazing stuff. Because you have to remember, at the time the fanzines, there's not many of them. You might put out a copy, an issue, we call it one issue, but you might only probably make 50 copies, maybe, you know. I mean, my days, I would make AD's fanzine maybe 500 copies, but of course those days are gone now. So yeah, this is very important. I got this from No a few days ago, and this is what happened whenever I travel. When I was in Taipei, I met these guys, they give me these things and stuff. And this is what I got from Chupi, 2 7-inches of Sabahan bands that came out, you know.
wow.
Yeah, so these things are for me are very, very precious, and it's not just because of Sabah. Anywhere in the region, because my aim is to document the scene itself. Because what I was doing with the blog was basically documenting what's happening. Because even now, when I want to look back at the first few bands that happened, let's say the first grunge band, I would like, oh, what was it? You know? And then you know, there's a band that came out on the compilation I did in 1992, you know, and we were there, and you look at the fanzines, because the fanzine record the conversation that they have, the interviews with the band, and all this thing. So it's almost like when you do research, you go to the archive, you know, it's like that. So this is what Alaska is about. It's so far away.
This big.
You know, like the band.
Apa tu?
Testicles.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I would say it's very important. But the funny thing is that when I started with this idea, and we got that space at Zhongshan now, and where I put a lot of my cassettes there and things, I realized that even the previous cycles of the more popular culture happening, releases, scenes that happened before the underground music scene, even then they are not documented. You know, only recently, like what's his name? He put out a book on the rock kappa. It's very good. Taki, Professor Taki came out with a great book on the whole rock kappa scene that goes back, and he's writing more books about it. Great, you know, because you don't see them. So then you realize, I'm going to ask you a question, very simple question. Have you ever seen a written discography, just a list of what P. Ramlee has ever released in terms of his recording?
Never.
Because there's none. And why? You know, you talk about Karya Agong, you know, this thing, you know what I mean? And he's, in terms of the pinnacle so far of what we have in terms of Malaysia, you know, that's the man. But even his creative work, it's not documented proper. I mean, I've been collecting books on him, but it's all bits and pieces, you know. But I mean, you can do that. It's very simple. What you do is you go to the collectors, you look at what they have, even the pre-vinyl disc that they have, which is acetate, whatever you call it. You just take picture, then you can see the catalog, and you can see what year it was released, what, you know, and you go to the newspapers to look at when it was advertised, and you know, okay, this came out in 1965 or something like this, you know what I mean? And you can put together a proper, maybe still looking for it, discography of what was ever released by Piramli. And then you go for Saloma, you go all this. There's none, man.
I heard this conversation you had with in an interview when it was the formation of Malaysia, and then we wanted to make the national anthem.
Yeah,
Can you tell about that story? I love that.
that one. You one of the best document for that is the book called Razali by Saida Rastam. Saida Rastam did a lot of great research on about the national anthem and the stories that surrounding it. You know, and it's a great story actually. It goes back to the, I think, to the time when a part of the Sultanate of Perak got sent to live in Maldives and you know, all this thing. Yeah. They had to migrate or something. And the story is how this person, which is related, I think it was the son of the king or whatever, he was in England, and he was received by the royal body at the ship and say, okay, where can we play the anthem of your country, so that, you know, tell us what it is, and we can play it when you are arriving at the istana or whatever. And you're like, oh fuck. You know what I mean? So, and that's how Negaraku came up.
You make something up?
From Terang Bulan and all this thing and everything. Yeah. So that's a long story. So what I'm saying is like, that, what was the question again?
It sounded like there was submissions.
Malaya, it's Malaya's Merdeka, it's not formation of Malaysia.
Yeah,
Oh, Malaya.
Malaya.
Ah.
Back then. So another question I will ask is like, Tengku Abdul Rahman wanted to have this national anthem. Because we need a national anthem. So it's a new country, going to be set at 1957, August 31st. We don't have our song, you know. So you know what he did? He actually invited composers from around the world. The big name, I can't remember the names now, big name. And even P. Ramlee sent a few of his compositions. But what happened to all this composition? Didn't they keep it somewhere so that we can actually look at it again and maybe play it and see, you know, like, wow, this, you know, you don't have it. You know, the lack of documentation, the lack of how to say, putting worth into all this artifact is so crazy. I mean, one of the stories that Saida told me, us actually during a talk, was like how there's this friend of his, I think one of the composers, one of the jazz people or something like this. He was at the Angkasa Puri at the RTM main station, and he was backing up his car to leave, and his car hit something at the back, so he went out and he looked. It's all this vinyl, all the vinyl records like been strewn around near the sampah. And can you imagine? I mean, the loss of, because you have to remember
Culture.
Yeah, you have to remember back when we first have our broadcasting, where every state would have their own radio station, you know, RTM lah kan, and there is not enough material from Malaysia or Malaya itself to be played. So what they did was they set up a studio near the nowadays Islamic Museum, near the masjid. There was a studio there, and they would have people like Johari Saleh. I mean, even before Johari Saleh, who would just record all these songs, their own composition and everything, and they press it on vinyl, and they put the vinyl in a box. Each box about 10, and this would be sent to all the radio stations in the country. In Terengganu, maybe ada one, Perak, whatever, you know, and they would play it because that's the government sanctioned content that was made by Malayan or Malaysian themselves. You know, those are priceless, right? And you can see them sometimes being sold at Mkotmo.
Oh, tak.
Yes. And so for me, I had this argument recently. Most of the time, like people say, oh, there's a lot of artifacts that we have from our culture that have been held by the British, as an example, or German, whatever. And I said, if they didn't steal it, stole it, bring it back, I don't think we still have it. Because there was this sense of worthiness on they see as valuable, but for us, it's not valuable. We just throw it away, you know. Maybe now it's changing, but back then, you know, the way the colonial powers were taking all these artifacts, in a way, for me, in looking at how we don't really care about it, back then, they actually saved it for us. And now we can take it back somehow. If they were not taken, it'd be gone. It'd be gone. And now, in terms of those recordings, it's with the hands of the collectors. And the collectors are more concerned about, I have this. It's not about sharing it. It's the same with people who collecting books. I told them, hey, guys, they put up, oh, this is very rare, nadir book that, you know, I just come across great, you know, and put on the price and everything. And I said, hey guys, can you turn it into PDF, scan it, put it online, Internet Archives, so we can all can read it. You can keep the physical one and do whatever sell, but the content, because I don't care about the you know, the physical thing. The content is important. This is what I do when, let's say, you have a collection that is important to the archive, Rasuka archive. I would go to you, I would take pictures of it. If you allow me, I will pinjam and digitize it, and then I take pictures. I took all the data from it and give that to you. Okay? Because what's important is what's inside, what's written, not the actual thing. I can't afford it anyway. Now people like selling like Piramli LPs for like from 500 baht to 1,000 baht to 2,000, 3,000 now. You know, and those people who understand the scene, you know, a lot of the demo tapes and stuff like that, it's only put out like 20 copies or something like this. You understand the value of it, you know. So for me, if I find all these things, it's like wow, because you know, I don't need to have the physical thing. I can show you. Oh, this is the picture I took. This is what's written there. That's the stamp list on the cassette. Oh, this name or the address or something. It's for me. It's a big joy already. You know what I mean? Instead of having, of course, I would love to have to, you know, but it doesn't matter actually. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What's inside is what matters most. That's why, like fanzine, I would go to your house, I would scan it, and I give it back to you, because what's inside. Raskoka Archive is about that. It's in the end, I would love if I have the chance to set up some sort of a, I won't call it a museum or something, where people can come and go through, let's say, researchers, people who are writing book on a certain era, who want to see what happened at that time, can come, go through the stuff that I have. And I'm also collecting interviews. You know, I've been interviewing people for a long time.
Sumber.
Yeah, and all those years, I take videos. I have like mini DVs, like boxes and boxes of it. I would go to gigs, I would record, I would have like a Walkman, I would record shows, you know, and I would interview people. And I got all this. Even during the first demo that we have after Anwar got fired at the, there was a talk at the Masjid Negara and everybody walked from there. I recorded the walk. I put my mic on top of my head and just quietly just record it and walk along with them. So you hear, you know,
For Masih.
yeah, the nascent era of reformasi. And for me, this is so fucking important, man. I mean, so important. I don't know. I mean, for me, I just feel sad when people just kind of like dismiss it. You know what I mean? So,
I want to come and listen to all these things.
there are a lot. I mean,
How many? Yeah.
currently, most of it is on boxes. I mean, a lot of people want to come and visit it and stuff. It's all in boxes because we are moving, right? So, once our house here is set up, then please come, man. We can have talk. We can have screening. There's so much videos. There's so much. I've been collecting scholarly papers from everywhere on subcultures for a long time. I got thousands of them.
Is this the one in the ground floor room in the middle of your house?
Yeah. The man cave. we set it up there. I wanted to turn it into a home studio so that I can start doing, my own recording. 'Cause I do have this design to to make more music as a solo venture. I have a lot of songs. I always write songs. So I thought that I would sit there and get proper gear and then start recording my stuff, homemade stuff, But day in, day out, it become more filled up with this.
But no.
To the point that I can't really go to the back area because there's no way to go.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the story about Rascal. And if you guys watching, I want to say something. If you have anything to do with rock and roll or the underground scene that's coming from the region, some people always ask me, what is the region? The regions mean Southeast Asia, Asia Tenggara. So Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Philippines. Yeah, don't forget the Philippines. If you have a collection of tools and you don't want it anymore, you kind of like think that you cannot keep it anymore, please think of Rascal Archive because we're going to take care of it. And if your name is Mak Sentuh and you give me your collection, the collection will be called the collection of Mak Sentuh because your name will be there. Because I want to keep that relationship between the archive and you and respect what it is that you've given us. And then I would digitize it, I would, collate it and document it, scan it, and put it up on our website in our database. And when you have time, you count by British as an example, German. And I said, if they didn't stole it, bring it back, I don't think we still have soon come rice cooker place. You can look at it, listen to it again, or whatever, and listen to other things. Because for me, it's like, because talking to some kids nowadays, I realize a lot of them don't know what happened. It's not that far away. Like the scene kind of started about 35 years ago, right? So they don't even know the origins of it and things like this.
I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, and everywhere else in the world, the punk collection, like in Washington DC, is being kept by the University of Washington DC. In LA, it's been kept by all these kind of like scholarly places who will make sure that it will survive for ages. And I hope Rascal Archive will go on that way even after I'm dead and gone. Huh?
I hope so too.
Yes. You know that there was a cultural archive from Netherlands or something who went and asked me to give them the collection so that they can have it there. Of course, I will not. Of course, but if nobody's really care about it after like I'm done with it or whatever, then of course you have to go to somewhere where it is solid, very well funded, very well kept. So do you know that the earliest movies done by Uwe Shari, one of our best film directors?
I don't know.
Do you know Uwe
I
Shari?
don't know Uwe Shari.
Uwe Shari did
what are
Kaki
the-
Bakar.
Oh yes.
Johor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His early student films was not archived in Malaysia. It's archived in New York, I think, and in Singapore.
What?
Yeah. That's how sad it is in terms of appreciating and documenting our very own creative output or products,
We need you.
That is just. I mean, when you go into film, there's another one. Like Singapore nowadays, their library, they're so good, man. I mean, you can even go online now to go through the newspapers that goes back to the 20s, 30s. I mean, yes, and that's so good. I mean, because how do you know your own story without knowing the history? I mean.
Yeah.
And how the history shaped what happened, what we have now. And of course, it's a big thing. I started out Raskoka Archive only for the underground music, because that for me is precious. For me it's important, precious, because it gives so many young people the empowerment to do their own thing, to be active, to be creative, and I would love to document and archive that and share, right? But like I said before, then the 60s pop yeah revolution, whatever, the mud rock or whatever, the underground scene of the 70s, which is all the bands that playing heavy stuff from Jimi Hendrix to Black Sabbath, it's not talked about. That's in a more kind of popular culture, but there are like the art scene, the anak alam scene, the filmmakers. There's a whole. Whereas in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Singapore, and I believe in Thailand now, they are starting to recognize this and put proper importance to archiving them, to have them documented. Malaysia is still way back in terms of and it's very sad. It's very sad.
Okay. Time check. Do we still have memory card? Oh, okay. I think we have to.
Fine. Thank you.
Thank you. We can also listen to Joe's archival journey in the interviews with BFM.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a few there,
Your radio show.
and his radio show.
Yeah, but my radio show is so intermittent. It's not regular. I do hope that it's going to be more. Like I said, once we settle down here, because I do want to have like a kind of more media presence in that sense. Talking about the areas that's covered by the archive, because there's so much things to talk about.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I think what SIPSIP is doing
Yeah.
is documentation of the people around you at this time and place. So it's really important what SIPSIP is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, interviews are very important. Like me, I would interview even taxi ride or Grab ride.
Yeah.
And I would interview. And I would, I'm giving, okay, to talk about, oh, my wife just left me. I got this kid. Now I have to pay for the kids' schooling. Oh, things like that. Even whatever random kind of conversation is so good, man. It's so good.
Maybe we'll do that.
Especially the real people.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these wannabes. You know what I mean? Or even wannabes would be interesting also, but I'm saying is,
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I need is a big cloud space for the data. And yeah, once we have that, then we can share.
Joe's making a wiki punk.
Okay. I don't think we have enough juice. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for not raining. And this has been a SIPSIP show. Share, comment, like, whatever. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bahasa English, Joe. You should speak Bahasa Melayu.
I express myself better in English.